The morning of July 19th, 2023, dawned quietly over the sprawling Cavendish estate in Lexington, Massachusetts, cloaked in a delicate veil of mist. The 20-acre property, centered around a neoclassical mansion with its gleaming marble columns and serene fountains, shimmered in the early light. At precisely 6 a.m., a landscaping crew's trucks rolled through the ornate bronze gates, guarding one of America's most illustrious families, the Cavendishes, whose wealth had endured for 4 generations. Margaret Holt, the estate's 54-year-old housekeeper, who had tended the grounds for nearly 3 decades, was conducting her routine morning inspection. But as she approached the gravel path leading to the family's private woodland, an unsettling sight stopped her cold. A black Porsche convertible sat haphazardly by the roadside, its door flung open, headlights still blazing, and engine purring softly. On the pale gravel beside it, a trail of dark red droplets glistened ominously, snaking toward the small cabin nestled in the distant woods. "My heart just froze," Margaret later told investigators, her voice still quaking with the memory. "That was Miss Lillian's car. She'd never leave it like that. And those blood stains. I knew something was terribly wrong." Within 40 minutes, the tranquil Cavendish estate had transformed into a frenetic crime scene. Police cruisers lined the private drive, their red and blue lights casting eerie patterns across the mansion's pristine white walls. First responders moved with practiced precision until a young officer froze, staring at the driver's license found in a wallet inside the car, his face drained of color. "That's Detective Carter's fiancée," he whispered, his voice barely carrying over the breeze. Lillian Cavendish, 31, the only daughter of financial titan Henry Cavendish, was not just missing, she was romantically entwined with one of their own, Detective Jack Carter. The revelation rippled through the officers like a shockwave, leaving everyone reeling. By noon, news vans had formed a convoy outside the Cavendish estate, their satellite dishes glinting under the midday sun. Residents of neighboring mansions watched from their balconies, the once quiet enclave of wealth disrupted by chaos. Meanwhile, Henry Cavendish, attending a global finance summit in London, received a call that shattered his world. His only daughter Lillian was missing, presumed dead, her blood staining the wooded path of the estate he'd built to protect her. Lillian Marie Cavendish, born March 12, 1992, was the embodiment of privilege. The sole child of Henry and his late wife, Isabel, she grew up in a world of unparalleled luxury, private jets, Swiss boarding schools, summers split between Provence and Nantucket. Isabel, a former principal violinist with the New York Metropolitan Opera, recognized Lillian's musical talent early. By age 6, Lillian could perform intricate Bach compositions, her recitals often leaving audiences in tears. Her former music tutor, Carla Vito, recalled, "Her playing had a magic, not just technical skill, but a depth of emotion, as if she could reach into your soul." After graduating with honors from Phillips Academy, Andover, Lillian attended Yale, majoring in literature and music theory, fluent in German, Spanish, and Japanese. Her path seemed destined for the heights of art and culture. But in 2015, tragedy struck. Isabel was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed away 8 months later. Lillian's world unraveled. Henry later confided to investigators, "After her mother died, it was like the light went out of her. She started questioning everything, our wealth, our status, even me." In the wake of Isabel's death, Lillian abandoned her plans to become a professional violinist. Instead, She poured her trust fund into founding the Cavendish Light of Arts program, teaching music and painting to children in Boston's low-income neighborhoods. Her father watched with a mix of pride and bewilderment, unable to fathom why she rejected the life he'd envisioned. Her college friend, Emma Zhang, described Lillian's dual existence. She could navigate high society galas with ease, knowing how to charm bankers and diplomats. But privately, she'd show up at my cramped apartment in jeans, kick off her heels, and drink cheap beer, ranting about how her family's expectations suffocated her. This dichotomy defined Lillian's final years, a constant tug-of-war between the opulence of her heritage and her yearning for authenticity. That yearning would lead her to Detective Jack Carter, a man from a world far removed from hers, and ultimately to a tragedy that would shake the foundations of the Cavendish legacy. Jack Carter, 36, joined the Lexington Police Department in 2016 after serving 8 years in the Marine Corps, including a deployment in Iraq. Known for his sharp instincts and relentless work ethic, he quickly rose to become a star detective with one of the highest case clearance rates in the department. Colleagues described him as intense and reserved, especially after his divorce 5 years earlier, when he seemed to pour his entire life into the job. Jack was the guy you wanted on your case, his supervisor, Lieutenant Mary Randall said. He saw details others missed, but his personal life was a black box. Nobody really knew him. Carter lived in a modest one-bedroom apartment in a working-class pocket of Lexington, just miles from the Cavendish estate, but worlds apart. His $92,000 salary was decent by most standards, but a drop in the bucket in a town where homes averaged over $4 million. This economic disparity would later draw intense scrutiny from investigators. Lillian and Carter met in October 2022 during an investigation into vandalism at the Cavendish Light of Arts program. Someone had defaced a community mural at the center with graffiti and slurs. Carter was assigned to what seemed a routine case, but pursued it with unusual tenacity, returning to the center repeatedly to interview residents and chase leads. The program's director, Raquel Sanchez, recalled, "He treated it like a homicide case, deadly serious. The first time I saw him talk to Lillian, his whole demeanor changed. He didn't see her as some heiress. He looked at her like she was his entire world." For Lillian, Carter was a breath of fresh air, a man untainted by her father's empire of wealth. His blunt honesty and grounded nature made her feel free. Their relationship evolved slowly, from coffee meetings about the vandalism case to quiet dinners in small restaurants outside Boston. Raquel noticed. They were so cautious at first, keeping it professional, but the chemistry was undeniable, like magnets pulling toward each other. To avoid scrutiny, they met in neighboring towns, drove separately, and Carter bought a prepaid phone solely for contacting Lillian. His colleagues and Henry Cavendish remained in the dark. Carter's friend, Detective Daniel Lopez, later shared, "Jack would mention the glass dome of Lexington, how the ultra-rich lived by their own rules. He seemed both fascinated and repelled by Lillian's world. I thought it was just talk. Now I realize he was in too deep." By spring 2023, their relationship intensified. They spent weekends in rented cabins in Maine, shared discreet drinks in dive bars around Boston, and met late at night in Lillian's secret loft apartment in downtown Boston, purchased with her mother's inheritance without Henry's knowledge. For Lillian, Carter was her escape from the Cavendish legacy. For Carter, the dynamic was more complicated. Colleagues noticed Carter growing distracted, constantly checking his phone and vanishing during lunch breaks. Bank records later revealed spending far beyond his means: upscale restaurants, luxury hotels, a $20,000 engagement ring, all charged to credit cards. He began asking Lopez odd questions about the Cavendish family's financial structure, their investment firms, and trust funds. Lopez recalled, "I thought he was just curious about how the elite lived. Now I wonder if he was taking stock." Meanwhile, Henry Cavendish grew suspicious of his daughter's frequent absences and evasive answers. In April 2023, he hired Silver Shield Investigations, a discreet Boston firm often used by the wealthy for sensitive matters. Within 10 days, Henry had photos of Lillian and Carter embracing by a lake in New Hampshire, dining at a secluded Boston restaurant, entering her hidden loft. Henry was livid. A deeper background check on Carter revealed details Lillian likely didn't know: a disciplinary action for drinking during his Marine Corps days, substantial post-divorce debt, and an unpaid car loan. Henry concluded Carter was a gold digger targeting the Cavendish fortune. What he didn't know was that Carter had been quietly researching Lillian's trust fund, a $22 million account set up by her maternal grandparents, which she would fully control on her 32nd birthday in March 2024. Carter's search history included queries about the fund's legal terms and options for early withdrawal. By May 2023, Lillian and Carter's relationship was at a fever pitch, but unseen tensions were simmering. Lillian began envisioning a future with Carter, even considering leaving Lexington to escape her father's control. Her search history revealed browsing for small farmhouses in New England, dreaming of a simpler life with Carter. On May 15th, she mustered the courage to tell Henry about her relationship, hoping he'd accept Carter. She proposed a formal dinner at the estate in early June to introduce them. She was so nervous yet hopeful, like a little girl, housekeeper Margaret recalled. She agonized over the menu, arranged the table flowers, saying, "Dad will see how special Jack is, he'll understand." But Henry, already informed by his private investigators, was playing a different game. He agreed to the dinner while plotting behind the scenes. The June 3rd dinner was a disaster. Henry insisted security thoroughly search Carter before entering the estate, an indignity that set a hostile tone. At the table, Henry and Carter faced off across the vast dining room, the air thick with tension. Henry peppered Carter with pointed questions about his career trajectory, finances, and even his divorce. Margaret recalled, "When Mr. Cavendish mentioned the investigator's report, Jack's face froze. He said, 'I know all about your past, Mr. Carter, including the unsavory parts.' The room went dead silent. Lillian tried to diffuse the situation, but when Henry declared Carter unfit for the Cavendish legacy, she snapped. Standing, she announced her love for Carter and her willingness to forsake the family fortune for him. The dinner ended with Lillian storming out, Carter trailing behind, and Henry left alone in the cavernous dining room, his expression unreadable. In the days that followed, Henry took drastic steps. He threatened to freeze Lillian's trust fund and cut off her access to family resources. He also arranged a private meeting with Carter. On June 8th, in Henry's Boston office, security footage captured a heated exchange. Henry slid an envelope across the desk, and bank records later confirmed a $1.5 million transfer to a newly opened offshore account in Carter's name, a bribe to end the relationship with Lillian. Carter left, clutching the envelope, his face a mix of defiance and unease. Lillian remained unaware, but her life was shifting dramatically. On June 10th, a Boston clinic confirmed she was 5 weeks pregnant with Carter's child. The news filled her with both joy and dread. She began accelerating plans for their future, with bank records showing an $80,000 cash withdrawal for a property deposit. Her searches included protecting children from family pressure and raising kids discreetly. But on June 15th, everything shattered. While using Carter's tablet at his apartment, Lillian stumbled across an email confirming her father's $1.5 million payment and correspondence with a Vermont real estate agent about purchasing a lakeside villa under an alias. Her world collapsed, torn apart by her father's manipulation and Carter's apparent greed. Devastated, Lillian drove to the Cavendish estate, seeking refuge in the woodland cabin where she used to play the violin with her mother as a child. Estate gate logs recorded her entry at 7:45 p.m. At 8:03, she texted Carter, "I know about the money and who you really are. Meet me at the cabin. You owe me an explanation." GPS from Carter's unmarked police car showed him entering the estate via a side gate at 8:29, avoiding security cameras. At 9:12, Lillian sent a final message to her friend Emma. "I was wrong about him. It's all a lie. I'll call tomorrow. I need to start over." It was the last anyone heard from her. The scene inside the woodland cabin painted a chilling picture for investigators. On the morning of June 16th, police entered to find furniture overturned, drag marks on the floor, and blood spatter on the walls consistent with blunt force trauma. A violin bow lay snapped in two, its strings scattered, suggesting it was used as an impromptu weapon. Bloody fingerprints on the doorframe matched Carter's, and Lillian's DNA was recovered from scratches under his nails when he was arrested. A pearl earring Lillian often wore was found half buried in the mud along the lake path, with drag marks leading to the water's edge, hinting her body was dumped in the lake. Carter's actions post-crime raised red flags. Security footage showed his police car leaving the estate at 10:17 p.m. At 11:02 p.m., he appeared at the station, changing into spare clothes from his locker. Officer Sarah Kim recalled his shirt cuffs were damp and faint scratches marked his neck, which he attributed to a branch while jogging. The next morning, when Margaret reported Lillian missing, Carter volunteered to take the initial report. He suggested to colleagues that Lillian might have fled due to tensions with her father, urging them to check bus stations and airports while steering attention away from the lake. Given Carter's relationship with the victim, state police took over the investigation. On June 18th, a search of Carter's apartment uncovered Lillian's silk scarf hidden under his mattress, with trace blood on his shoes. Most damning was a notebook detailing the structure of Lillian's $22 million trust fund, including transfer dates and account numbers. On June 19th, Carter was arrested at the Lexington Police Department. As state troopers cuffed him in the bullpen, he showed no emotion, saying only, "I want my lawyer." Further investigation unearthed more evidence. An underwater search team recovered a 2.5-carat engagement ring from the lake worth $18,000, purchased by Carter on credit a week earlier, far beyond his means. Forensic analysis confirmed Lillian's blood was concentrated in the cabin, suggesting a violent struggle. Carter's phone records showed he deleted call logs with Lillian that night, attempting to cover his tracks. Charged with first-degree murder, Carter's trial began in January 2024, drawing national media attention. Prosecutors argued he meticulously planned to access Lillian's trust fund through marriage while pocketing Henry's bribe. When Lillian uncovered his betrayal, he killed her in a rage and hid her body. The defense claimed it was an accident. Lillian, distraught over the bribe, attacked Carter, fell, and struck her head fatally, prompting him to panic and conceal her body. Henry attended every day of the 5-week trial, sitting stoically in the front row. His composure broke only once, when prosecutors displayed an ultrasound image found in Lillian's apartment, revealing the grandchild he'd never meet. He crumpled, covering his face as tears fell. In March 2024, the jury convicted Carter of second-degree murder, sentencing him to 20 years to life. The judge condemned his abuse of his police badge as a betrayal of public trust. The trial's conclusion didn't fully close the book on Lillian Cavendish's case. In August 2024, a drought lowered water levels in a remote swamp 8 miles from the Cavendish estate, where a fisherman discovered human remains. DNA testing confirmed they were Lillian's. The find stunned investigators as the location contradicted Carter's claim of disposing her body in the estate's lake. More disturbingly, forensic analysis suggested the remains were moved to the swamp days after the crime, implying Carter may have had help while under police watch. The choice of location indicates significant premeditation, State Attorney Ellen Harper said at a press conference. Carter knew the estate lake would be searched first. Moving the body shows chilling calculation. Yet Lillian's phone, laptop, and emerald necklace, a constant accessory, were never found. Carter's bank records showed no suspicious payments, and no accomplices were identified, leaving an unresolved mystery. After the remains were identified, Henry Cavendish channeled his grief into honoring his daughter's vision. In October 2024, he launched the Lillian Cavendish Memorial Foundation with a $60 million endowment, supporting arts education for underserved communities and programs to prevent emotional and financial abuse. The Boston Arts Center was renamed the Lillian Cavendish Creative Haven, its entrance graced by a bronze statue of Lillian playing the violin, surrounded by students, inscribed with her words, "Music is everyone's language." A playable violin beside the statue embodies her belief in universal access to art. Henry's personal transformation was striking. Once a controlling, distant patriarch, he became an advocate against domestic violence, sharing the red flags he missed in Lillian's relationship. "I was so focused on guarding our wealth, I failed to protect Lillian's happiness," he choked out in a rare interview. "I saw Carter's debts, but not his danger." The woodland cabin was razed, replaced by a lily garden around a small fountain. Each year on Lillian's birthday, Henry plays her violin recordings there, mourning alone. The Lexington Police Department overhauled its protocols post-Carter, implementing stricter psychological screenings and financial transparency. Lieutenant Mary Randall retired early, haunted by her failure to spot Carter's issues. "We're trained to catch criminals on the streets," she said during a review, "but who expects one behind a badge?" Officer Sarah Kim sought counseling for not reporting Carter's odd behavior, admitting, "He was one of us. You don't want to believe a colleague's capable of that. I'll carry that guilt forever." Lillian's diary offered the case's most heartbreaking evidence. Dated June 14th, the day before her death, she wrote, "I dream of our child with Jack's smile and Mom's musical soul. I want to believe we can escape wealth's chains and live authentically. but Jack's changed. His eyes hide secrets. Last night, when I mentioned moving to the country, he seemed upset, like he was hiding something. Mom always said, trust your instincts. Have I ignored them too long? Beside the diary, police found gifts for her unborn child, a tiny violin model and a music box tucked in her violin case next to an unfinished handwritten score. Carter's past also came into focus. Former girlfriends described his pattern of targeting successful women, with relationships escalating quickly but collapsing over financial disputes or controlling behavior. Psychologist Dr. Lisa Joe analyzed, Carter weaponized his police status and emotional manipulation, targeting women like Lillian who craved freedom from constraint. When exposed, violence was his last resort. The case sparked debate on wealth disparities, police trust, and intimate partner violence. Lillian's legacy endures at the Creative Haven, where children play her violin, their notes, sometimes halting, sometimes beautiful, serving as a living tribute. Each June 15th, Henry visits the swamp alone, placing a lily at the water's edge. Locals occasionally report hearing violin strains drifting across the water with no source in sight. Legend claims it's Lillian's spirit, seeking the freedom she never found. At Green Haven Correctional Facility, Carter remained silent, declining interviews. His appeal was denied in December 2024. Through his lawyer, he issued a cryptic statement. The truth is more complex than anyone knows. One day, I'll tell my story. For now, that story remains untold, while Lillian's lives on through her foundation and music, a legacy of art, hope, and unfulfilled promise. If this story gripped you, subscribe for more in-depth true crime investigations. Next week, we dive into the Midnight Painter case, a brilliant artist who hid victims' clues in every canvas. How was the truth uncovered? Share your theories below, spread the video, and join fellow crime story enthusiasts.